Chapter 15. The Business. Another day, another blue sky, and another hot one. It was now becoming relentless, so a shaded place was chosen for the business conference venue, and the company vehicles were parked outside. A brand new and gleaming space blue Raleigh chopper, 2 cobbled together bicycles, and a homemade skateboard were all stood next to the unkempt privet bushes. Hushed tones could be heard from inside. How are we going to finance this? We need to combine our collateral. Oh, I like that word. Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it, dude? It sounds like clitoral. And then they all sniggered. Guys, we're digressing. Let's get back to the matter in hand, huh? That's rude as well. Look, quit it right now. Let's get serious and do our business. They all laughed this time, because that one was the rudest one of them all. But eventually, the business meeting in the bushes did get underway. Okay, if we're gonna do this, guys, then we all need to pool our resources. It then went quiet. You don't know what pooling resources means, do you guys? The lads shook their heads, so Simon explained. We all put our money together, and that way we can finance this deal, all equally. Oh, okay. That sounds good, said Harry. Yeah, let's go for that, agreed Jensen. Right then, guys. How much money have we got? They all turned out their pockets. How much have you got, Harry? Harry counted his money. 4 pence, he announced proudly. Oh, okay. Jensen, what about you? Jensen counted his money. 1, 2, 2 pence. But then he dug deeper into his pockets. No, wait. 2.5 pence. Oh, okay. Dippy just sat there smiling. He was loving this. It was all so exciting, and he waited for Simon to ask him how much money he had. But he didn't. Simon just turned out his own pockets. Well, guys, I've got 73 pence, so that makes a grand total of £6, 22 and a half, interrupted Dippy. They all howled with laughter at Dippy's terrible maths. Let's not let Dippy be head of accounts. Oh, I don't know, Jen. We'll be millionaires by next week if we let him add the profits up. But in a second, they'd all stopped laughing, as Dippy had turned out his pockets and placed a large pile of coins in front of them. £5 and 43 pence. Exactly, he announced. Bloody hell. Where on earth did you get all that lot from? Asked Jensen. I found it. Where did you find it? Down the back of the sofa. Whose sofa? Me mum's sofa. How did all that money get down the back of your mum's sofa? Oh, when she comes back home, drunk from the pub and passes out, it all falls out of the pockets. So, finders keepers, losers weepers. We're all products of our environments, and it was beginning to seem that Dippy had thrived in his somewhat unconventional environment. Wow! That means that there really is £6, 22 and a half. Correct, agreed Dippy, who'd surprised them all with his agile thinking. Well, you know what that means, dudes. We're in business, so let's get baking, ordered Simon. But the others were hesitant, because they just didn't like that expression. Jensen summed it up perfectly. Can't we call it something else, Simon? I mean, baking sounds a bit girly. Yeah, I guess you're right, man. It does a little. So they all thought about it a little more. I've got it. Let's call it cooking, announced Harry, and the boys instantly approved. I like it. Cooking is much more manly, and Dippy, you're the kook. I'll be in charge of distribution, and Harry, Jensen, you two can be the foot soldiers. What do foot soldiers do, Simon? Whatever I tell them to do, Jensen. Oh, well, why are we the foot soldiers then? Because you guys invested the least. That's why. I suppose that's fair, Jensen, said Harry, shrugging his shoulders in acceptance. Yeah, I suppose it is, agreed Jensen. And we'll be on the front line, just like the real soldiers in Northern Ireland. Not quite, Jensen, said Harry. Yeah, maybe not, agreed Jensen, realising the stupidity of his comparison. Oh, and guys, I'll supply you two dudes with mobile phones, so you can coordinate operations seamlessly. Mobile phones? Questioned Harry. Yeah, that's a really good idea, that is, Simon. Yep, I thought so too. Okay then, guys, let's get cooking and make some money. And I know just the place to start. It was Saturday night at the Keighley Lifts Workers' Social Club, and Sydney, the psychic, had only been on stage for 5 minutes, but things were not going well for him. He pointed at a member of the audience and asked, "Think of a four-legged animal with stripes." A grey-bearded middle-aged man shouted back, "A monkey in pyjamas!" Sid the psychic was a bit perplexed, but continued nevertheless. Now, would you like another guess?" The bearded man's cigarette-smoking wife shouted, "A zebra crossing!" "Well, that's as near as damn it," said Sid, as he unfolded a piece of paper with a drawing of a zebra on it. And the audience laughed heartily for some reason. Even though Sid was probably not psychic, Harry's mother and father were still very much enjoying the show. They also howled with laughter at each bizarre answer. This was their only night out of the week, and so they did their very best to enjoy it, as did all the other audience members. Sydney the psychic was a Cockney, though strangely he sometimes sounded Australian, but this couldn't be helped. It was his first appearance in a northern club, and he was finding it very difficult to understand the northerners' sense of humour. He wasn't a comedian, and was slightly confused with all the laughter he was hearing. So he tried again. "You there, the lady with the silk scarf." He was pointing at Doris Weatherby, the biggest gin drinker this side of Bradford, and that was a big mistake. "In your mind, my darling, think of a number between 1 and 10. 6! shouted Doris, and everybody howled again. So Sid tried to outsmart the daft northerners. "That's correct, love," he announced. But the audience weren't fooled, and they booed loudly. Sid just didn't understand that the audience enjoyed the show far more when it all went wrong. They were a different breed up north. "This is hilarious. The kids would love this," said Harry's father. Oh, I doubt it, but this is far too tame for our Harry now. Yeah, I suppose you're right, dear, said Bert, with more than a little sadness in his voice, as last year Harry would have been outside with his lemonade and Smith's ready salted crisps, listening to the act. But now those days were well gone, and Harry and his friends wouldn't be seen anywhere near their parents. But he was wrong, because Harry and his friends were back, and they had a very good reason for being there. Bert drained the last of his pint of Tetley bitter and stood up. "Another pint, Pete?" he asked. Pete was his workmate. He was there with his glammed-up wife, Betty. He'd known Pete since school days, and they'd been best friends for 30 years. "Aye, why not? But don't worry, I'll get these in, Bert." "Oh, OK, Pete. Fill her up then. Oh, and 2 baby shams for the ladies, please," said Bert, a bit surprised at Pete's generosity, as his nickname was Stingy Pete, and for good reason. "Aye, why not? It's my birthday tomorrow. I might as well celebrate by buying everybody a drink," said Pete, purposely. Bert had completely forgotten that it was Pete's birthday, so he grabbed his arm and stopped him, pulling his wallet out of his pocket. "Don't worry, lad. I'll get these, Pete. It is your birthday after all." "Oh, thank you very much, Bert." Bert then pulled his wallet out, and a strange sense of déjà vu washed over him, because they'd played this game of wallet, cat and mouse very recently. "Wait a minute, Pete. Wasn't it your birthday last month?" "Was it? Oh, yeah. I must have got my dates wrong again." "Yeah, that'll be it, Pete. It was a good joke, though. And I nearly got you there, Bert. But don't worry, I'll get the drinks in," smiled Stingy Pete, unashamedly. Pete's jokes had begun to wear very thin, if it had even been a joke, as Bert just wasn't too sure anymore. So he smiled and pretended to be amused, as he always did. Nobody's perfect, he thought, especially my friends. It was now time for Sidney the Psychic's clairvoyant section of his act. This never failed, so his cockney brashness returned. He stared through the smoke-filled hall at his audience and spoke out confidently. "OK, can everybody concentrate? I'm now going to talk to the recently past, so I need absolute silence in order to communicate with them." Sid closed his eyes and grimaced with concentration. "I'm getting the name Dave. Yes, Dave. Definitely Dave." He used this name, as everybody knew a Dave at some point in their life. "I know a Dave," shouted Doris, the gin slinger. Excellent, thought Sid. At last, a breakthrough. "And what's your name, my dear?" "The name's Doris. Doris the gin slinger." "Oh, hello, Doris. Again. Anyway, Doris, Dave is here, and he wants to communicate with you, Doris." "Ah, OK then. Dave, can you hear me?" shouted Doris. "I've got her. Hook, line and sinker," thought Sid. "Yeah, Dave can hear you. He says he's all right. He's happy now. He's in a better place." In a better place? Why? What was wrong with my house? Nothing. It's just that he's not suffering now. All his problems are over. Well, I'm glad he's gone then, 'cause he didn't half make the house smell. It was a very odd thing to say, but Sid persisted. He was a professional after all, and the show must go on. He says he's always watching over you, Doris. What? Watching over me? Even in the levee? Well, no, not in the levee. Oh, that's good, 'cause he always used to follow me into the levee, and he'd just lay there on the floor at my feet and watch me. My God, these Northerners really are very strange, thought Sid. Don't worry, Doris. He won't follow you into the toilet any more. He says he will wait for you at the door from now on. Oh, good. And can you please tell him to stop shitting in the hallway and to go in the garden from now on? The audience were laughing again, but Sid the psychic still just didn't get it. Yes, from now on, he will use that toilet, proclaimed Sid, who now realised that Dave might actually be still very much alive and just had some unusual habits. But the audience were howling with laughter again because they all knew that Doris had a dog called Dave who, at that very moment, was tied up outside. Sydney the psychic was now completely disheartened and was ready to throw in the towel and end his northern nightmare. Everyone else, however, was of a different opinion. They were having a great night. Sydney had been very entertaining indeed. He just didn't know it. But they wouldn't tell him yet, as that would spoil all their fun. Whilst the parents were inside, drinking and enjoying the show, their children were hanging around outside in the car park and were being kept occupied with an occasional lemonade and packet of crisps, as was the tradition. And this was ideal selling territory for Harry, Jensen and Dippy. Simon wasn't there though, as he had to go with his parents to watch his younger sister Sally in her first ever orchestral recital, and he was gutted that he was to miss their first night of business, but there was no way that he could have gotten out of that one. Dippy was ordered to be head lookout and was sat in a tree where he was watching out for the feds, whatever that was. Harry and Jensen stepped forward out of the shadows at either end of the car park. Harry tried to call Jensen on his mobile phone, but he didn't answer. It must be bad reception around here, thought Harry, so he pulled the string tighter and spoke louder into the paper cup. The sound then vibrated all the way up the string, and this time Jensen heard him loud and clear. And by the way, try the paper cup phones for yourself. It really is quite amazing. And nobody seems to do them these days, and I can't think why. Customers at 12 o'clock. I repeat, customers at 12 o'clock. I'm moving in, said Harry into his cup. Roger that. I'll be watching you, Harry. Call me if you need backup. Will do, Jen. And don't call me Roger, sniggered Harry. This is so exciting. It's just like being on Starsky and Hutch, thought Harry, as he hung up his phone on a fence. He wandered over to the side door of the club, where a group of kids were hanging out. He was a bit nervous and didn't really know what to say, But this had to be done, so he approached the biggest kid first to open negotiations. He was a typical 1970s boy with long straight hair, frilly shirt, and ridiculously tight, high-waisted brown flares. He was tall, but only because of his platform shoes. "Do you want to buy something special?" asked Harry, as he pulled out the bag of merchandise. The kid was instantly intrigued. "Why, what you got?" he asked, expecting it to be cigarettes or alcohol or something similarly deviant, as there were virtually no drugs in those days, unless you were in a rock band. Harry looked to his left and then to his right to make sure that the coast was clear, and the lad was now more than interested, and all of his friends had gathered around to grab a slice of the action. "Do you want a fizz bomb or a lemon drop?" asked Harry, opening the bag of sweets to reveal the oversized merchandise. The large group of boys were stunned into silence, but not for long. The big lad laughed, then the next biggest lad, then the next biggest, right down to the smallest. It was a strange kind of platform-chewed hierarchy. "Oh my God, are you actually joking me? Fizz bombs and lemon drops? What are we, like 6 years old?" asked the biggest lad. "But these are special fizz bombs and lemon drops," protested Harry. "Well, why don't you take your special sweeties to the nursery and hand them out there to the little kids?" "But they are special. They're not like your normal fizz bombs and lemon drops. They're... But it was no use. The boys were just not interested. So Harry walked away dejected and looked over to Jensen, and it seemed that his attempts at selling had met with a similar fate. Harry picked up his mobile phone and called Jensen. Abort. We need to regroup and have another think about this. Over." "Yeah, I'll definitely harry that, Roger. Over." They attempted to go their separate ways, but this was difficult, as they had to wind in their paper cup phones and then meet in the middle. "Look at those simpletons with their little cup phones," shouted one of the platform-shoed gang, and again they all laughed. "On your way, lemon drop gang," shouted another. Harry and Jensen had been humiliated. This business thing was much harder than it seemed, so they beat a hasty retreat. They would have to arrange another meeting to discuss a better selling strategy, and Simon was not going to be happy about this. Back inside the club, Sydney the psychic was having an equally bad night. The audience was still howling with laughter as he trudged off the stage and disappeared behind the thick green velvet curtains. His first northern show had been a disaster. He grabbed his wallet and car keys from under the bar and tried to disappear unnoticed out of the club. He sneaked past the manager, not even bothering to ask for his fee. "Get that man a pint," said a red-faced gentleman. "I haven't laughed that much in donkey's years. My sides are hurting," said another. Yet again, Sid was utterly confused by life in a northern town, and as he stood there, more and more people came up to him. "Brilliant show, Sid," said one. "Bloody hilarious," said another. He was receiving pats on the back and drinks from all sides. The manager found him and thrust £30 into his hand. "There you go, Sid, and here's an extra fiver bonus." Thanks a lot, mate," said a surprised Sid, in his entirely normal Cockney Australian accent. "Funniest act we've had in years. You've got to come back next month, and I'll double your fee if you do." Sydney the psychic was flabbergasted. "Yeah, I think I will. Why the hell not?" He was still not getting it, but these northerners might not be that bad after all. He climbed into his Morris Minor Traveller and headed out of the club car park and saw 3 young lads trudging up the road carrying a bag of something that seemed to glow under the light of the lamppost. A strange feeling washed over Sid. The boys looked despondent, but they needn't be, because their lives were about to change for the better, and he knew beyond doubt that this was true. "What the heck? How the bloody hell do I know that? Jesus Christ, maybe I am psychic after all." And maybe he was, because the boys' fortunes were about to change, and for the better. And I too know this, for I was one of those boys.